Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Eloy. In this video, I want to try to teach you the player rules for Free League's Alien, the role-playing game. This video is part of a series. If you haven't watched the previous videos, check the playlist and start at number 1. So, we are going to talk about close combat in this video. Close combat uses the close combat skill. It only works at engaged range and encompasses both use of unarmed or melee weapons. To draw a melee weapon from a sheath or a belt is a fast action. If you are prone, the enemy gets a +2 modification to attack you. You may spend a fast action to get up from prone position. To resolve a close combat attack, you roll the skill, and the damage you do is equal to the weapon's damage rating, which is to say, if you get 1 success, the action is successful, and that inflicts the weapon's damage rating upon your opponent. Your opponent is allowed an armor roll, assuming they have armor. Armor roll is a number which indicates a dice pool of base dice. Each 6 on that armor roll lowers the inflicted damage by 1. Meaning, if you have a weapon that does a base 3 damage and you inflict only 1/6 on your attack roll, you do get to inflict 3 points of damage on your opponent. But if the opponent rolls well on their armor rating, they may roll enough 6s to cancel those 3 points of damage. Now, remember stunts from use of skills. So, for every extra 6 over the initial success, you can choose one stunt which includes +1 damage, and you may choose this stunt multiple times. So, in the previous example, you used a weapon with a damage rating of 3. Let's say that you roll 1 success, that gives you 3 damage. Let's say that you roll 3 successes on the attack roll. The first success will give you the base 3 damage that the weapon inflicts, and then the 2 additional successes you could use to purchase the stunt of +1 damage twice. So you would inflict the base 3 + 2 is 5 damage. And then the target would get to roll their armor rating. So that's the first type of stunt. You may choose to inflict an extra 1 point of damage, which may be chosen multiple times. You could also choose a stunt that says outmaneuver enemy and get to exchange your initiative score with them, taking effect next round. So remember that initiative in this game is handled by drawing cards from 1 to 10, and you keep your initiative for the entire combat unless you swap that card out. You can swap it with a friend at the end of the round, the beginning of the round, or you can use this stunt to take your opponent's initiative card from them, and that becomes your new initiative, and your initiative order becomes theirs. Another stunt you can do is your choice to either knock or pull a weapon or other object from your opponent. So you can drop it to the ground, and picking up a dropped object is a fast action. You could also choose to knock your opponent down, in which case your opponent falls prone, and this can only be used on humanoid opponents. And the final stunt that you could choose in close combat is you pin your enemy in a tight clinch. So you engage in grappling, which we'll discuss below. Now, grappling only works for humans and synthetics. One thing a defender can do in close combat is to block an incoming attack. When you are attacked in close combat, you may choose to block the attack. A block is a fast action and requires you to roll close combat skill. You must declare the block before the attackers rolls their strike. So, if you're engaged in close combat and your opponent declares an attack against you, you may choose to declare a block. When you block, you roll your close combat, and for each 6, you can choose an effect below. You could choose to decrease damage, in which you remove one of your enemy's successes, one of their sixes. If they are left with no sixes, the attack misses. And you may choose this effect multiple times. So if you're being attacked, say with a knife, and your attacker rolls 2 successes, you can roll to block. And if you roll 2 successes of your own, you cancel one success, on a 1-to-1 basis. Another thing you could use those extra 6s for when you're blocking is to counterattack. So, you could choose to remove their hits on you, decrease damage, or you could, instead of that, you could choose to deal damage to your attacker equal to your weapon damage rating. So say you have a knife of your own with base damage of 2, and you're being attacked, and you rolled 3 successes on your block. So you could use 2 of those to mitigate the damage against you, possibly even preventing that weapon from striking you at all, and the leftover success you could use to deal damage to the attacker, equal to your weapon damage rating, in this case 2. However, you cannot spend additional 6s to increase the damage of this counterattack. So if the knife inflicts a base 2 damage, that's all the enemy takes. The final effect that you can use when you get a very successful blocking roll is to disarm your enemy. So the enemy attacks you, the attacker tries to hit you with a knife, you block and get enough successes, you could disarm your enemy in this defensive portion of the attack. Note that blocking is a reactive action. And so as a reaction, it breaks the normal initiative order. So because you're acting on the attacker's turn when they're trying to hit you. However, this counts against your 2 available actions for the round. Meaning that each block will cost you 1 action later in the round. If you have already used both your actions on this round, then you can't perform block. When it's your time to act, you might consider saving a fast action to block later in the round. So be mindful of that. If you're not doing anything else this round, you might want to save 1 fast action to defend yourself. If you are unarmed, you can only block unarmed attacks from other humans, because xenomorph attacks or synthetic attacks, synthetic being attacks, count as weapons. And so to block an armed close combat attack or a xenomorph attack, this requires you to be armed or to have a tool or something in your hand with which to attempt to block the incoming strike. Typically, NPCs do not block unless the GM says so. So again, when you attack, your opponent has the option to try to block you if they have saved 1 fast action or have not acted yet in this round. They'll be able to do so with a fast action. The successes that the defender rolls, right, will detract from your successes to hit them. And even if you do hit them, they still get an armor roll to prevent damage. However, let's go back to where when you attack somebody else, you have the option to use a stunt to enter into a grapple. And so grapple is a close combat stunt. Both the attacker and his target fall to the ground. The opponent drops any weapon they were holding and cannot move. Their only action that the opponent can perform is an attempt to break free, which is a slow action and must win an opposed close combat roll against you. So both of you would roll close combat, and this is on the opponent's initiative. It's their action, right? And it's a slow action, and it can attempt to break free if they win the opposed roll. However, if you're still grappled, you, the attacker, the only action you can perform is a grapple attack. Unless you mean to release your opponent, you can always release your opponent. It doesn't even specify that it's a fast action or something. I think you just declare, I let him go. But if you insist on attacking them, the only action you can do is a grapple attack, and it works as a normal close combat unarmed attack, but is a fast action and cannot be blocked because you're already grappled. There is a note indicating that Xenomorphs follows special grappling rules. Again, this is part of the Game Mother's purview, and so we'll not be discussing it here. And a final type of action that can be done is shoving, in which it is a fast action. It is a close combat roll. The Game Mother can apply modifications, and if you succeed, you shove away the opponent from short range, from engage range to short range. And there is a note that shoves can be blocked, because again, remember, if you roll enough successes in your block, you negate the successes of your attacker, and so that's how you can prevent a shove. And so those are the basics of close combat. And so next up will be ranged combat. So until then, take care.